Hey everybody, how's it going? Travel Man Dan here, and welcome to today's episode of Reading Man Dan. Today's going to be a really fun episode as we kick off the start to Dr. Seuss week by reading you something from a biography reading series, and I bring you Dr. Seuss, the Great Doodler. Oh, this episode is going to be so much fun. Absolutely love Dr. Seuss. So sit back, relax, and let's go. Hey, thanks for stopping by and checking out today's episode. If you're new to the channel and you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button right there. Ring the notifications bell so you're notified when new episodes come out each week. Now, let's go ahead and get started with today's book. Today is Dr. Seuss, the Great Doodler. And this is a lot of fun as we're about to go into the Dr. Seuss week where schools, educators, people all around the world celebrate Dr. Seuss's birthday, which is tomorrow. I'll have a special video for that one too. But all throughout the week and even all throughout the month to go ahead and read one of Dr. Seuss's stories, or maybe you watch it here on YouTube, or just really acknowledge what an amazing artist, what an amazing person he was to go ahead and create so many epic children's books. And this book right here, Dr. Seuss, the Great Doodler, we're going to find out more about who Dr. Seuss actually was. So, it was written by Kate Kilmo, and the paintings are done by Steve Johnson and Lou Francher. Let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, right away, from the very beginning, we open this up. There's a nice little letter here you can see. This is from Myra Zarnowski, the professor in elementary at early education, Queens College. Okay, that's pretty cool. So here we go. Oh, wait. Before we get started, I almost forgot. And if you have one of these, now is the time to join in. Please, put on your cat in the hat. Da-da-da. All right, now we are ready to go for Dr. Seuss. Okay, here we go. It is a beautiful day in La Jolla, California. A writer and artist is at his work in his studio. The telephone rings. A reporter is calling with big news. The writer has won a big award for his books. It is the Pulitzer Prize. The writer is Ted Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss. What? Ted nearly falls off his chair. Is this a joke? Ted loves playing jokes and pranks, but he takes his work seriously. Now, the world is doing so too. Not bad for a lifelong doodler. Check it out. All right, there he is. Ted Geisel, otherwise known as Dr. Seuss. And he's at his little workstation doodling up some new characters, and he gets a phone call. Who's this? And it's somebody on the other line telling him he just won the Pulitzer Prize for Children's Author. Wow. Theodor Ted Seuss Geisel was born on March 2nd, 1904 in Springfield, Massachusetts. His mother's name was Henrietta Seuss Geisel. She read to him and his big sister Marnie. She also sang chants. She once used to sell pipes in her parents' shop. He later said he got his love of wordplay and reading from his mother. Thanks to his father, Theodore, Ted became interested in machines. His father tinkered in his shop, making wacky inventions. One of them was a machine that made his arm muscles stronger. What? Oh yeah, baby, get some. All right, check it out. So here we see young Dr. Seuss, Ted Geisel, being born, and his mother is reading him and his sister books. And down here, look at that. All right, some type of curling machine, some kind of pump to get your arms all jacked up. Dr. Seuss's dad was the inventor of the preacher curl. From an early age, Ted liked to doodle. He always had a pencil and a pad at hand. Near his house was a zoo. Lying in bed at night, he could hear the lions roaring and the elephants trumpeting. During the day, he would go there and doodle pictures of animals. Marnie said his animals never looked quite like the real ones. All right, there we go. We can see he's going ahead and he's feeding an elephant. But there it is. He grew up next to a zoo, and he was able to doodle animals. And you know what? When you're young, they're probably not going to be as realistic as you think. You know, you're just starting off drawing and doodling. So, well, let's see what happens with Dr. Seuss. Ted had a happy childhood until World War I broke out. The Geisels were German American. Many Americans blamed the war on Germany. Kids bullied Ted. He wanted to prove he was a true American. So he joined the Boy Scouts and sold war bonds. He was one of the top 10 bond sellers. Former President Theodor Roosevelt came to honor the 10 scouts, but there was a mix-up and no medal for Ted. He was so embarrassed. Ever since that day, he had stage fright. Aww. So look at this. Okay, World War I breaks out, and Ted gets bullied because he is German American. And over here, we look at this. He joins the Boy Scouts, and you see Teddy Roosevelt was there to honor him. But okay, poor Ted, poor Dr. Seuss. Well, there was a mix-up, and he didn't get his medal. And because of that, that created stage fright throughout Dr. Seuss's entire career. After high school, Ted went to Dartmouth College. He worked on the humor magazine. He drew zany-looking animals with zany names. Oblivic was a critter with an umbrella tail. Sometimes he signed his drawings with just his middle name, Seuss. All right, check it out. There he is at college, working away. Look at some of the background animals. Check it out. You can see there's a bazooka, and he's got an umbrella for a tail, and just really wacky, out of control, zany little characters. He doodled his way, and well, back then he only used to sign his name Seuss. Ted went on to study at Oxford University in England. He was bored by the long classes, so he doodled. A fellow American student saw him doodling. "That's a very fine flying cow," said Helen Palmer. "You ought to be an artist." Ted and Helen rode around together on a motorcycle. Ted wanted to marry Helen, but how would he earn a living? All right, so check it out. There he was doodling, and well, it caught the attention of Helen Palmer, and she said, "That's a very fine flying cow." But over here, we got them, they're falling in love a little bit, and Ted really wanted to marry Helen, but he said, "How am I going to earn a living? Especially all I do is just doodle, I got to figure this thing out." Back in Springfield, Ted drew tons of cartoons. He sent them to magazines, signed Dr. Theodor Seuss. A magazine called the Saturday Evening Post bought some of his cartoons. Ted also got a job at a different magazine. Now he could marry Helen. Yeah! All right. They moved into an apartment in New York City, and he kept on doodling. Attaboy, Ted. He was able to sell some of his pictures, and he was able to get his wish of marrying Helen Palmer. That's awesome. They moved into an apartment in New York City, and Ted went about his day doodling. Ted drew a clever cartoon about a bug spray called Flit. The bug spray company loved it and gave it more work. He became an ad man. As he did when he was a kid, he made up zany critters, this time for ads. Years later, zany fish like these would fill his book, Mick Elliots' Pool. Wow, check it out. Okay, so there it is. And we can see right there, Dr. Seuss was able to become an ad man and create up a character for this company called Flint. Then, over here, he was able to compile all the crazy, wacky, zany drawings that he made of fish and create his own book called Mick Elliots' Pool. That's pretty cool, Dr. Seuss. Ted wanted to do more with his doodling. A trip by ocean liner inspired him. The ship's engine droned. Dum-diddy-dum, dum-diddy-dum. He started to write to the rhythm of the engine. He wrote a story about the crazy things a boy sees on his way to and from school. When he sent it around town, 27 publishers turned it down. Then he ran into a friend who had just become a children's book editor. Mike McClintock loved the book. The title was, "And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street." It was Dr. Seuss's very first book. Dr. Seuss went on an ocean liner where he heard the rhythm of the engine and was inspired to create a book off of it. Unfortunately, nobody wanted the book except for his friend right here, who by coincidence, Mike McClintock, just became a children's book author. He loved it, and it was the very first book that Dr. Seuss ever published, and it was called "And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street." Dr. Seuss went on to publish new children's books at a steady rate for the rest of his life. Some of them won awards. Horton Hatches the Egg was a big hit in 1940. The story was silly, but it had a deep message. People loved the elephant who said, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant." An elephant's faithful 100%. I like that. Okay, so there it is. Horton Hatches the Egg. If you haven't read that, check it out. It was one of his first books. It was in 1940 where that one was published. You might be familiar with Horton Hears a Who, but yeah, they love that. They love the meaning behind it, and Dr. Seuss went on a roll to create lots more books, and let's find out more about him. Ted did not publish a children's book during World War II. Lots of Americans wanted the United States to stay out of the war, but Ted wasn't one of them. He drew cartoons that poked fun at Hitler and Japan. They urged America to fight for what was right. Alright, so take a look. World War II is broken out, and Dr. Seuss was unable to go ahead and create more children's books. He started working for the Army, and let's find out more about Dr. Seuss's career along the way. America finally entered the war. Ted joined the Army. He worked with a team of filmmakers in Hollywood. They made funny training cartoons starring a soldier who couldn't do anything right. Army pals like Chuck Jones and P.D. Eastman would work with Ted in years to come. Alright, check it out. So there he is right there. Dr. Seuss has joined the Army, where he came up with this really funny, goofy soldier. He's a bit of a blumbering, stumbling, kind of stoogey character, but he worked with some great people like Chuck Jones and P.D. Eastman when he was in the military. Good stuff right there. Let's find out what happened. After the war, Ted and Helen stayed in California. In 1947, Ted found an old, unused fire tower in La Jolla. He and Helen fell in love with it. They bought the tower and made it their home. Wow, that is awesome. Check it out. Look at that crazy tower that they found, right? They moved to La Jolla, which is near San Diego, and they said, "Oh, it's beautiful, it's perfect. Let's go ahead and make that tower our home." That's pretty cool. I mean, Dr. Seuss is quite an artist. You know he's going to have a crazy, wacky house. Ted's studio was in the tower. He kept a hat rack there filled with wacky hats. A fireman's hat from Ecuador, a Turkish fez, and admiral's hats from around the world. Sometimes, when he was having trouble with the story, he would put on a silly hat. That is awesome. Take a look. There's Dr. Seuss. He's got that crazy, wacky admiral's hat on, and he's up in the tower, and he's drawing, he's doodling, he's creating books, and, well, Dr. Seuss, I know how you feel. Me, Reading Man Dan, I love wacky hats, right? Ted wanted each book to be perfect. He wrote and rewrote. He read aloud to Helen. He sketched and resketched. He pinned his sketches to a corkboard. He worked until the words and pictures were just right. Then he took his book to New York City. In his publisher's office, he would read it aloud. Workers would crowd around to listen to Ted's latest story. There he is. Check him out. Okay, Dr. Seuss is at his publisher's office in New York City after he's worked out the kinks and he rewrote everything and he mastered that story. He brought it to New York City and he read it, and people absolutely loved it in that publishing office. In 1955, Life magazine ran an article that said most early reading books were boring. Snooze fest. The job of writing books for early readers should go to artists like Dr. Seuss and Walt Disney. Ted was dared to write a book using 225 simple words. He thought he could write the book in 2 weeks. It took him more than a year. The Cat in the Hat was published in 1957. The book sold like hotcakes. It changed the way children learned how to read. Awesome! Check it out, guys. Look at all the kids are reading The Cat in the Hat. one of the best and most famous stories by Dr. Seuss. One of my favorite. If you haven't seen it already, I'll go ahead and throw a card up there right now. You can check it out where I go ahead and read you The Cat in the Hat, and The Cat in the Hat comes back. So really excited to see that, to learn about that, to see that he was challenged to write a book in 225 simple words, and he was able to come through with such an iconic book like The Cat in the Hat. How the Grinch Stole Christmas also came out in 1957. Someone once said the cat was Ted on a good day, and the Grinch was Ted on a bad day. Ted felt he was more like the gruff and grumpy character. His car's license plate even said Grinch. 8 years later, Ted worked with Chuck Jones to make an animated television special based on how the Grinch stole Christmas. Both the show and the book became Christmas classics. That's right, check it out. Okay, look at Dr. Seuss's license plate, says the Grinch, and over here you can see kids watching how the Grinch stole Christmas. It is an amazing Christmas book. It is an amazing Christmas cartoon. If you haven't, I'll go ahead and throw it up there right now. You can check out my version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but just an amazing story, an amazing cartoon, and I absolutely love it each and every Christmas holiday. In 1958, Ted became president of Beginner Books. He would publish a line of easy-to-read books like The Cat in the Hat. The office was like a funhouse. Ted wrote some of the readers. His wife, Helen, wrote some too. He hired friends to do others. Mike McClintock wrote A Fly Went By. P.D. Eastman wrote Go Dog Go. Ted published Stan and Jan, Berenstein's first books about the Berenstain Bears. Oh, wow. Imagine working for this office. Look how much fun they had. Look how much talent is in that room. You can see they're all wearing wacky hats. They're all creating some kind of fun, epic children's story. It must have been great to work for Dr. Seuss up in that little tower, creating so many fun books. Let's continue. Everything Ted touched turned into a bestseller. Then, in 1967, a terrible thing happened. Helen died. Ted was lonely and lost. A year later, he married Audrey Stone Diamond. She had a good eye. She wanted Ted to use more color in his books. Ted's work became more colorful. All right, take a look. As we can see, Dr. Seuss right there is mourning the passing of his wife, Helen. He is sad, he is down, but he was able and lucky enough to meet another woman named Audrey who had a really good eye, and she suggested that Dr. Seuss add a little more color, put a little more pizzazz into his drawings, and it definitely made them more colorful and just a different aspect, and really made things pop in the Dr. Seuss world. Audrey came to live with Ted in the tower. From there, he saw how much construction was taking place. Trees came down and buildings went out, so he started doodling about it. He wrote the Lorax. It is the story of a little creature who speaks for the trees. He tries to save them from the greedy once-layer. The story carried a powerful message about our environment. Oh, wow, take a look. Okay, definitely the tower has grown, and you can see all the construction going on. When Ted first moved to this little area in La Jolla, it was a lot of trees, and now it has been cut down, and this deforestation, if you will, this environmental change was what inspired Dr. Seuss to go ahead and write the Lorax. And if you haven't watched my video on the Lorax, I'll go ahead and throw it up there right now if you want to check it out. It's a fun story. It's got a really powerful message about our environment. And, well, it was one of his most famous books, later to be created into a movie. Another book with a powerful message was the Butter Battle book. It tells about the Ukes and the Zooks. Their two armies are fighting over which side of their bread to butter. The fight is silly, but their weapons are serious. Will deadly bombs be dropped? The story never says. Some people felt the book was too scary for children, but Ted knew kids could handle it. He felt his message about the madness of nuclear war was important. Wow, check it out, the Butter Battle book, and look at that. What a great message from Dr. Seuss. He knew the kids could handle it. Yeah, it was a silly book about, which side should we put the butter on? Is it this side or that side? And that wasn't the full message of it. It was to go ahead and bring light of the seriousness of nuclear war. Ted was now world famous. For some years, he had been sick with cancer. But there was one more book he needed to write. It was a book of advice about life's ups and downs, called Oh, the Places You'll Go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. In a way, these were Ted's parting words. He died on September 24th, 1991. He left behind 44 books that have brought millions of children a great deal of joy. We see Dr. Seuss, he's reading the last book he wrote called Oh, the Places You'll Go. He's surrounded by children. He's bringing them much joy. And all throughout the years, he has brought 44 books to our existence that brings so many people so much happiness, from children to adults all around the world. Dr. Seuss, you are amazing. Every spring on Ted's birthday, people get together. They wear the striped cat hat, and they celebrate the words, the pictures, and the spirit of Dr. Seuss, the Great Doodler. The end. Wow, take a look at this lasting image of the book. Really great. Maybe that's you in your classroom, your friends. They got the funky hats. They got a bunch of books. This child right here is dressed up as the Lorax. Lots of fun, and I hope that you really enjoyed listening to the story as we found out more about Ted Geisel, Dr. Seuss. It's a really great story. Love to hear all the stuff going on. If you like what I'm doing and you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button right there. Ring the notifications bell so you're notified when new episodes come out each and every week. Go ahead, give me a thumbs up on this video. Drop me down a comment below. Let me know what you liked about this video, or let me know which Dr. Seuss book you'd like for me to read. Wow, that was awesome. I really enjoyed learning a lot about Dr. Seuss. I hope you saw something fun and cool going on in this book, like how Dr. Seuss got his very first start and what was his very first book published. I hope you learned something new and interesting, like what was Dr. Seuss's real name and who was he married to. Hope you found that interesting. But most of all, I hope you were inspired to learn more about Dr. Seuss, to dive into who he was as an artist, as a person, and read all of his books if you can. Or maybe watch this video again. But just go nuts on the Dr. Seuss. Have fun today, tomorrow on his birthday, throughout the entire week, throughout the entire month. Gather up as many books as you can. Watch as many stories as you can. This guy was an amazing American artist. He's left us with a lifelong passion for children's books. He was the best of the best at it, and really quite thankful and happy and feel very blessed to be up here making content, creating videos of the great Dr. Seuss and his stories. Thanks again for watching. I'm Travel Man Dan, aka Reading Man Dan, and remember, it's a big world out there. Make sure you see every bit of it